Yeah, I have to say it's fairly bizarre that the government would propose a bill which in a bill entitled the Heritage Bill, propose measures that are actually going to destroy our natural heritage or threaten the extinction of parts of our natural heritage. And like Deputy Smith, I really would like the Minister to explain what response she has to the concerns that are being raised by the people who are knowledgeable and expert in the area of protection of wildlife. One of the junior ministers, I won't name him, but one of the junior ministers in the government was sort of chortling there during the week when I was talking about the birds and the bees. Because there's this sort of, we think it's funny to talk about the birds and the bees. But actually, the birds and the bees really matter. And the fact that a significant number of bee species face possible extinction, that we've had a huge loss of the bee population, as Deputy Smith has already said, and that we have a whole series of birds that are on the red list facing possible extinction because we haven't protected their habitats. That's serious stuff. The government need to explain how allowing measures that would destroy their habitats at crucial and sensitive times of the year, how that can possibly be justified. The point about road safety has been well made. We already have legislative provisions which can ensure that local authorities can cut down hedgerows that are a danger to road safety. So we simply do not need to do it. Other places where they have similar burning times as those proposed in the government's bill hasn't stopped fires, hasn't stopped upland fires. Because if somebody lighting a match, it doesn't really matter what time of the year you allow it or don't allow it, where you cause fires. So these measures are not going to prevent some of the things that the government are saying that they will prevent, but what they are going to do is destroy the habitats of the birds and the bees. When our biodiversity needs greater support, greater protection, where certain species are under threat and need to be protected, the government is allowing for measures that will do damage. And it makes a bit of a mockery of commitments to, we were engaging with the Taoiseach the other day about biodiversity and government's commitments to biodiversity, when actually we're allowing measures that are going to substantially reduce biodiversity and when biodiversity is under threat, even though it is, if you like, one of the great assets of this country and could be a far bigger asset. We are allowing things that are going to reduce that biodiversity. So I don't really see the justification for it. I will say I think it is important that we don't set this up, although it often is played out, as a sort of debate between the environmentalists and the farmers, and it shouldn't be. And I do accept that insofar as we need to take measures to protect biodiversity, we need to support farmers and rural communities in doing so, and we need to engage with them. But one of the amendments we'd put in, it was ruled out of order, I'm not quite sure, but I won't get into that debate now, was that there should be a proper consultation process set up, which didn't happen in the context of this bill, with the various stakeholders to look at how these issues could have been addressed in a way that wouldn't be damaging to the environment. There wasn't. Well, not according to the environmental organisations, there wasn't, right? So they're obviously all telling porkies. But they're very unhappy with what you're doing, and 30,000 people have signed petitions against what you're proposing to do. One email I received also suggested that this may well be in breach of things like EU directives on birds. Has that been properly assessed? There was no regulatory impact assessment was done on this bill, which best practice when you're talking about introducing new regulations which may have a substantial impact on the environment, that they should be subject to a regulatory impact assessment. No such impact assessment has been done, and effectively what the Minister is saying is changing the law will itself be the assessment, because it's going to be a trial. Well, actually, you should have done the assessment beforehand, and you should have done it properly to assess whether the measures in this bill could run foul of EU directives on environmental protection, the Birds Directive and so on biodiversity, and you should have engaged properly with environmentalists and people expert and knowledgeable in these areas, which they at least say you have not done or have not done to a satisfactory level. So I would appeal to the Minister to reconsider, to back this amendment, which is deleting this very controversial and concerning section of your bill.